How's it going, everybody? Hopefully y'all are doing good. I myself am actually in a really good mood. I've had a pretty good day, which is really nice because if you guys remember my last upload, I wasn't having a good day that day. Actually, the past couple days really have not been that good for me, just because I have a huge major senior project I need to get done. But I decided to take a quick break and narrate this because I actually miss reading your guys' comments. And yeah, anyways, I got a pretty good fun NU battle using this really fun NU team based around Primeape and Rotom as a Volturn combo. Not the best team ever, just because I don't really have a dedicated physical wall, but it's really a lot of fun. And looking at threats on my opponent's side of the field, Zangoose and Kadabra are actually going to be quite annoying, especially if I lose my Lickilicky and Kadabra does turn out to be Focus Sash. He can do some damage to my team, and then Zangoose, if it Swords Dances, it could potentially sweep me. Also, Alomomola, if I lose my Rotom, then I really have nothing for it. So yeah. He doesn't have a spinner, which means I'm going to lead off right with my Scolipede, as he's going to be leading off with his Piloswine, and right off the bat, I'm just going to get up my Layers and Spikes, because any form of Venture Hazard I do get up are going to be here to stay for the remainder of this battle, and I know he's not going to go straight for the offensive move, and more than likely just go for the Stealth Rocks, as I'm going to get up another Layer of Spikes. He's going to go for the Earthquake, and this is my own custom EV Scolipede. Originally, I got the EV spread from Rylan, who got the EV spread from Chimpact, and I just modified it to my own liking. If you guys would like to try out this defensive Scolipede set, it's definitely a lot of fun to use, and in my opinion, it's a pretty good set, so I'll leave it down in the description if you guys do want to try it out. And I'm going to go for the Tox because I do have Protect, and Earthquake really doesn't seem to be doing entirely too much damage to me, so the following turn, I'm going to reveal to him that I have the Protect, which can be kind of good and bad at the same time. Good, because now I'm going to be able to rack up the Toxin damage. Bad, because now if he ends up bringing in Zangoose on my Scolipede and he predicts my Protect and goes for Swords Dance, I could be potentially screwed, so I'm going to have to play around with Scolipede carefully. As this turn, I'm going to switch into my War Turtle, knowing that he more than likely will expect me to bring in Rotom, and he does actually end up predicting that and goes for the Icicle Spear, which is really good for me because I do resist the Icicle Spear. That means I can also start racking up even more toxic damage on the Piloswine, and I know that this turn, the switch into Haunter, expecting the Rapid Spin, is way too obvious, and I trained my War Turtle well, and he knows Haunter's coming in, so he's going to go for the Scald, and he's going to get a crit, which is just going to destroy this Haunter, and that crit might have actually been a big game-changing just because Haunter could have been able to do a good amount of damage to my War Turtle, but hey, my War Turtle is well trained. So as he brings in the Skuntank, I know that the Sucker Punch or the Pursuit is a little too obvious, so what I'm going to do is actually just stay in and freely go for the Rapid Spin, seeing as he has no other spin blocker on his team. As he goes for the Sludge Bomb, that doesn't do entirely too much, and I know I should be able to take another one, but he actually does end up over-predicting by going for the Pursuit, which means I'm going to be able to get off a good amount of damage with the Scald. And surprisingly, I don't think I'm in Torrent range, but this Scald still does a really good amount of damage. Above that, my War Turtle is going to end up burning the Skuntank, which means as he takes me out this turn, it is going to be a double down due to the fact that Skuntank has Life Orb and the burn. So my War Turtle just took out Haunter and Skuntank. Get on its level. Fuck you, Kyo. War Turtle is an amazing Rapid Spinner in NU. So on the double down, I know that he's going to want to bring in Piloswine to get up his rocks, which means I'm going to switch directly into my Primeape, or bring it in, sorry. And I thought that the U-turn was way too obvious, and I thought he was going to stay in and go for the Stealth Rocks, but he makes a good play, predicts that, brings in the Alomomola to take the close combat, and even after 2 layers of spikes, this Alomomola is still around like 53% HP, which is a little bit annoying because, as I said, Alomomola is a problem, although I do have Toxic on my Scolipede, which is why I'm actually going to switch directly into it as opposed to bringing in my Rotom, which maybe I should have brought in Rotom because I'm pretty sure even Air Slash would still do a decent amount of damage to Alomomola, not to mention that if he did go for the Scald and burn me, or if he did go for the Toxic to poison me, I do have Heal Ball on my Lickilicky and the Wish, so it wasn't too bad of a play. Unfortunately though, I completely forget about the Piloswine and at what amount of HP that he's at. So I'm thinking that I'm not going to be able to knock him out with the Megahorn, which means I'm just going to go for my 3rd layer spikes. But judging from the HP, maybe I would have been able to take him out if I got a high damage roll. I don't run any attack EVs on the Scolipede, but it's fine. And I actually ended up misclicking on the spikes because at the time of this battle, I was actually helping my brother move some stuff into his room. So I misclicked on the layer of spikes, which might actually end up playing a role because I could have been able to get off a decent bit of damage with the Megahorn. As this turn, I'm just going to go for the Protect just to be able to wear down this Piloswine, because I know, because I lost my War Turtle, Piloswine getting up the rocks has already done all that Piloswine is supposed to do. So I know that he more than likely is just going to leave it in to get off as much damage on my Scolipede as possible. And at this point in the battle, my Scolipede really isn't that useful to me. As this turn he ends up going for the Icicle Spear, I guess maybe expecting me to bring in Rotom, which would be a bit odd of a play, but Icicle Spears actually does about as much damage as the Earthquake would have done. So if he did get a 5 count, that really would have been bad for me. Luckily though he doesn't, he only gets 3 hits, and on the following turn after missing my first Megahorn, I'm going to be able to hit the second one. And yes, I could have gone for the Protect, but honestly I thought that Scolipede at this point was just basically useless to me, not to mention that after I knocked out Piloswine, he could have just brought in Kadabra and revenge killed me with the Psychic, and then I would have still just brought in my Rotom as I'm going to do this turn. And he is actually going to bring in his own Kadabra on the double down. And here I was actually a bit afraid about the fact that he could be Scarfed, but I know I should be able to take any one hit from the Kadabra, and on the off chance that he wasn't Scarfed, I decided just to go for the Volt Switch as opposed to going for the Thunderbolt, and it does turn out that he's not Scarfed and more than likely might be Focus Sashed, so this Kadabra is actually going to be a whole lot easier to deal with just because its Sash is broken and it is at very low amount of HP at this point. So he's going to go for the Psychic, and judging for how much damage that did, that automatically tells me that he is indeed Focus Sashed, which means I really have nothing to worry about this Kadabra, because if this thing was like sub-disable or something, which I have seen before, then it definitely would have been a nuisance. Luckily though it isn't, and I know that this turn, because he got the Spadef drop, I know that he might predict me to go for the Waste to Protect or switch out, which means I'm actually going to go for the Dragon Tail, expecting him to bring in the Alomomola. As he does bring it in, I get off a decent bit of damage, which means I will be able to rack up entry hazard damage on it. Unfortunately though, I Dragon Tail him out into the Zangoose, which is actually very, very scary, because here I thought that he would go for the Swords Dance, which is why I didn't go for the Protect, but no, he goes straight for the Facade, and I was also hoping that he would go for the Night Slash, expecting me to bring in my Golurk, but he does make the good play, which is the Facade, because he just had brought it in. Toxic wouldn't be doing too much recoil damage to him, so either way I think Facade was his better play to go for. Unfortunately though, at the time I was in a position where I had to go for an offensive play or risk getting swept. So as he takes out my Lickilicky, I'm going to bring in Primeape, go straight for the U-turn. After taking the Quick Attack, he just, I want to say, barely lives, especially after the toxic damage. And the reason why I brought in my Rotom is because I put him in a position where he has to go for the Quick Attack, which means now I can double out into my Golurk as he does go for the Quick Attack, which is really great because now he is going to end up dying off to the Toxic, or at least that's what I was hoping would happen, but no, he just barely survives. And I know at this point that he's just going to knock out my Golurk, so I'm going to leave it in for fodder, but it turns out that he has Pursuit, which I did not know Zangoose could even learn. But then again, even if he did have Night Slash, it really wouldn't have been too game-changing, because I still would have brought in my Rotom as he brought in either Kadabra or Alomomola. The fact that he actually has Pursuit kind of just drags out this battle a bit more, because as it brings in the Alomomola on my Golurk, I really cannot do anything to Alomomola, so I'm just going to have to stay in, just start going for Earthquakes, Dynamic Punches, or just whatever until eventually he stalls me out with the Toxic and the Waterfall. So I believe this is going to be the end of it. This is why this is just so sped up. And as I bring on my Rotom, this is basically my last chance to win this battle, because as you can see from the damage calc, Alomomola can actually live a Thunderbolt at full HP. So as I go for the Thunderbolt, the HP bar is going, it's going, and I knock it out, which is really great, because if he had survived the Thunderbolt at the amount of HP my Rotom is at, he can actually take me out with the Waterfall, which means as I brought in my Primeape, which is my last, he could have switched out into Kadabra as fodder, brought in Alomomola, and just Waterfall, Toxic, Wished, and Protected, and stalled out my Primeape for his victory. Luckily though, I did not get absolute minimum damage with the Thunderbolt, and I was able to take out the Alomomola, then knock out the Kadabra, and that's going to be the 2-0 victory in my favor. So I definitely hope you guys enjoyed this pretty fun battle. If you did, you know what to do. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to see more content. Enjoy the rest of your night, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I will be uploading constantly after Wednesday, which is when my project is due. But yeah, with that, I guess I'm out of here. Later, everybody.